So if I'm doing points in 3 space, which capital R with the double bar with the raised 3 is notation for 3 space, then sometimes you'll see here points are given as an ordered triple. And this is just a little bit about notation in the book, because these are things I want you to kind of realize, that sometimes they might give the point XYZ, the ordered triple, so, and it's in alphabetical order. And sometimes they might give a point ABC. Kind of the same thing. In the textbook, there is a difference, an implied difference between these two things. So if I use letters toward the end of the alphabet, then we kind of think of those as variables. Like the XYZ could represent every ordered triple. That's possible. If they use letters toward the beginning of the alphabet, then they're kind of implying those might be constants. And I'm saying might because it doesn't have to be that way, but that's kind of how math has kind of evolved over hundreds of years. So I was reading your textbook this morning, and I saw this, and I thought, well, you know, do you know the difference between when they have ABC, they're talking about a specific point, or if they have XYZ, they're probably talking about every point. So just a little bit about the notation there. Now, I want to also talk about the difference between things you saw early on, maybe 8th grade for some of you, then 9th and 10th, Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and this. So, I want to look at the difference between R, capital R with a double bar, capital R with the double bar and a 2, and then capital R with the double bar and a 3. So the first one, the capital R, is a notation for the real numbers. And then the capital R with the 2, that's 2 space. That is the XY system that you've been working with for years. So I'll write 2 space, and I'm going to put here, I'll draw my little x-axis and the y-axis. And in fact, the first one, the real numbers, that's your single number line. And then R3 is what we're talking about in 12.1. And this is 3 space. And so that's going to be, and as I drew it yesterday, I called that the y-axis. This one angled this way is x. Now you can label them differently, and sometimes depending on the problem, I might want to label them differently, but 3 space. So this kind of brings up a question like this. I'm going to graph x equals 3 in R, in r squared, and in r cubed. And I want to kind of look at the difference. What does that mean in each one? So if I'm going to graph x equals 3 in R, I'll put in my number line. Let me put in, let me label it a little bit. And this kind of goes back to, I think for me it was 8th grade or something like that. How do I graph x equals 3? It's a single dot. So I'll go to 3, put the dot, and I'm done. Now, in R squared, x equals 3, I'm going to write is what it is right here. In fact, what is it right here? It's a line. It's a vertical line. And it passes through 3 on the x-axis. So in r squared, 1, 2, 3, I'll put a few labels just. Normally, I'll just put the labels I need, like 3. Now, this kind of takes me back years ago. We used to have a remedial algebra class. And I gave a problem like this on the test, and a lot of the students, when I said graph x equals 3, they did this. I'm like, uh-oh. Okay, so what happened there? They didn't make the jump from the single dot to the vertical line. You know, so now, like, okay, wait a minute. This is really 0y plus x equals 3, or if I put it in alphabetical order, x plus 0. So that's your vertical line in R2. Now, in R3, x equals 3, anybody know? It's a plane. It's a plane. Because what we're looking at is we would have x plus 0y plus 0z is 3. And now for this one, I'm going to actually label this axis. I'm going to put that one to be x. This one's y. And the one going straight up is z. And what I'll do is I'll come out 1, 2. Again, it's like I don't want to clutter it too much. Now, if I'm in R, just R, it'd be a dot. If I'm in R2, it's this line in the XY plane. Now, to graph the plane in R3, I'm going to put a line parallel to Z, another line here. This is kind of parallel to Y, and shade that in a bit. It keeps going in the directions of parallel to the YZ plane. It's you got this line that's in the XY plane, but there's that, the x equals 3 is a plane in R3.